Hey guys, Jay Hoyt here. Before this video gets started, I just want to say thank you guys for all the support, most recently on Twitch. We're just slowly gaining our way to that 200 follower mark, but we are still lacking one goal. Majority of you guys are not subscribed here on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, or if you're brand new to my channel, hit the subscribe button down below, turn those notifications on. But we got another banging video for you today. We got our 11th CDL roster preview with the Paris Legion. What's going on, guys? Jay Hoyt back with you. Today, welcome back to Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. We got another 60 bomb. This time on Armada Strike, we got some hardpoint gameplay for you, so I hope you do enjoy that in the background. But like I said in the intro, this is our 11th video. We have one more video till we're all done, but this time we got the Paris Legion. So this is probably the latest team to make an announcement video I think I've ever seen. But we'll get into the new team here in a second, as we always do. Let's recap. Let's jump back to last season. What did these guys do? So this team was Luca, Shocks, Dens, Kismet, and Zed. Now, this is basically 4 APAC players with Kismet, who is from the US, who has shown promise, but hasn't really done anything since the 1 year he actually did really well. So this was a very strange team, especially with 5v5, competing under a Paris, banner. You'd expect there to be kind of like a European feel to that. But there's 4 APAC players, guy from the US. It was a very strange team, right? I mean, I get it, but like it was kind of strange at first, but that was just the roster though. But what did these guys do throughout the year? So they get 1st through 4th at the launch weekend. They get 3rd, 4th at London, 5th, 6th at Atlanta, 5th, 6th at Dallas, 7th, 8th at Florida, 7th, 8th at Seattle, 7th, 8th at Paris, 5th, 6th at New York. They get 2nd at London out of nowhere, and then they get 9th, 10th at Champs. So this team was weird, right? They started off decent on LAN, getting 1st through 4th at launch weekend, then 3rd through 4th. Then they still, then they went back to, sucking with, the Atlanta event. Then I believe the Dallas event was the one that they moved online. And then they just kind of ride out the rest of the year, with the exception of the London event. And they sucked, but then all of a sudden they get 2nd, then they get basically last at Champs. So it was just a very strange team, and what was also weird was this is one of the only teams, actually it might have been the only team, that never made a roster change all year long, which was very strange. Like, the first half this year, I'm like, alright, if I'm a team owner, if I'm the GM of a team, and I want to win, because there's no, you tank for a draft pick. This is, you win or you lose. There's no getting draft picks and getting prospect. It's, here's your team, make it good. But like I said, one of the only, I think it's the only team that never made a roster change. But for the first half the year, 1st through 4th, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, I guess if you want to include that in there. No roster changes. So what do you expect? Nothing's going to change unless you change something internally. Roles or, how you play certain things or just something. You're going to have to change that because you're not doing very well. But then they get 7th, 8th, 7th, 8th, 5th, 6th, and then 2nd randomly. And then they bow 9th, 10th at Champs. So it was just, like I said, a very strange team that never changed, even though they sucked. So I just don't get it. But here's the other thing. And this is, I mean, unfortunately, it's the truth. But players from the APAC region, which is like New Zealand and Australia, they're good there, in their own hometown, and, in the APAC region, they're the best team there. But once they come over and start playing the likes of the top European talent, and especially the top NA talent, they just really can't compete, unfortunately. And maybe if they played against, those teams more, they could learn what they do, and, potentially they could get used to how they play and, change their styles up. But they've just never been able to compete at the highest levels. So I don't know what it was, but this team should have changed and they never changed. But that's what they did last year. They didn't really do too much of anything. But going to this year, fresh start. Completely brand new team. So they get a lot of, I don't want to call them leftovers, but a very strange mix of players. So the first player they picked up is Aqua from the LA Gorillas. You get Classic from Toronto. Then you get Fire, who's from the amateur scene. And then you pick up Scraps from London. Now, like I said, this team should have made roster changes, but they didn't. But going into this year, with the likes of the free agents that were available, this is a very surprising team. Now, no disrespect towards any of these players, but Scrap should have been a guarantee after he was dropped from London. Wuskins, where the heck is he? He was considered one of the best players last year, but he's still a free agent, or I think he's actually competing in the Challengers event this year. Fire, who I've never heard of before this year. And then, who am I forgetting here? Classic, he was just like one of the older players that's been competing forever. That kind of questionable pickup, if you ask me. But I should start all my predictions and my thoughts by saying this. My thoughts are from after the Kickoff Classic. So this is, I think it's a couple days removed now from the Kickoff Classic. So some of my points are from before, some of my points are from afterwards, but a lot of them still remain true to, my true feelings towards them. So I guess we'll start with the Kickoff Classic. What did they do? They faced off against the London Royal Ravens. They lose game 1 hardpoint. Paris wins game 2 S&D. Control they lose. I think it was in a 3-0 fashion. They won. Paris won the second hardpoint, and then they won the last S&D. So they win 2 S&Ds and a hardpoint in the series. And not that they looked great, but they looked better than expected. Now, that's not really saying much because everyone kind of considered this to be one of the worst teams in the league. But the fact that they took out London was kind of weird. I mean, they do have 3 players playing from the US, 1 player still playing from the UK, so I'm not sure how that affected anything, but it's just something to note, that's for sure. But Aqua, one of the players that you wouldn't really expect, actually looked to be one of their best players throughout the entire series. He was on top of the leaderboard on pretty much every game mode. I don't remember a game where he really wasn't in the top 1 or 2 as far as stats went. But that was kind of surprising. I mean, usually Scraps is that superstar player, so potentially I'm guessing Aqua might be running the AR, maybe the Flex, and I think Scraps is running the other one, if I remember the roles correctly. But even after the kickoff event, even after they win this I guess we'll call it an exhibition match versus London, I still don't feel confident in this team. And this was my thought beforehand, was this team has no chance. But after this event, or this Kickoff Classic, this exhibition match, I don't understand this one. I mean, they really surprised me. I mean, as far as Fire goes, I had a little bit of a run-in on Twitter with him. I want to save that for a future video as a story time, but that was kind of funny. We'll get to that, like I said, in another video. Like I said, with the amount of talent that's still free agents or playing in the challenger scene this year, I don't know why they picked up this team. Again, no disrespect towards any of the players on this squad. My first choices wouldn't have been these guys. Especially after last year, some of those players that I mentioned, those free agents, those challenger players, I would have picked over these guys. That's for sure. But they waited super long to pick out this team. They had all the options as far as challengers and all the players that were still free agents, kind of all there. And then they just don't do anything exciting or special with this squad. But this team got a bunch of leftovers. I mean, with the exception of Scraps, I would call the rest of them leftovers, or, in the case of Fire, he's an amateur. So, the fact that he got called up obviously shows that, they see highly of him, and hopefully he can live into the potential that they see for him. But the free agents, Scraps is already there, but Wuskins, Jerd, there was some really good young European players that I can't think of their names offhand, but there's a lot of good players that showed promise that you could throw around those other 3 guys and make a really good European squad. As far as predictions go for this team, it's so hard because they actually looked decent at this exhibition match. But even in the grand scheme of things, I still am predicting this team to be a bottom 4 team throughout the year. Maybe they jump ahead of that by a spot or two, but I definitely don't see this team competing in the top 6. I think there's way too much talent at the top that would just run over these guys and literally destroy them. Like with the likes of like Dallas, Atlanta, Optic, LA Thieves, Minnesota, Florida. Like that's like my given top 6 right now. Do I see them breaking that? I don't. Like unless some teams just start to not perform, or one team has a really off event, I don't see this team doing too much of anything. If anything, if we're given a bold prediction, I see this team making roster changes. I see Wuskins joining this team somehow. I don't know how, but I see Wuskins joining this team somehow later in the year. If this team doesn't perform, I would hope they would actually make changes, unlike they did last year. If things aren't going the direction they want, they would make changes. Potentially move Fire down to an academy roster, and potentially have him playing out in challengers, and putting different players in here. I think a lot of teams are too afraid to make changes, and then that's what gets them stuck, and that keeps them at the bottom of the leader or the bottom of the table and the bottom of the league. And I just feel like they're too afraid to actually do anything to make their team better. Maybe they don't have that option with their management or with their GMs or with their franchises or what. But prediction is bottom 4 team all year long. I would say definitely missing, I don't want to say definitely, but most likely missing playoffs. And, once again, going into next year, probably a brand new team, I would guess. But this team needs roster changes. I don't see this team competing with the likes of the top talent in the league for that top 6. I just don't see it. Maybe they can prove me wrong. But with all that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you did enjoy. Leave all your thoughts and comments down below in that comment section. And if you haven't yet, or if you're brand new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on those notifications. But as always, guys, we'll see you in the next one.